Hi you guys, welcome back to Creatively Crafted Life. My name is Melanie and today we are tackling another drawer in my Alex units. This time I am going to work on my embossing powders and you'll see I have it's somewhat organized. The problem I have with this is that I have all different size containers. And so what I am going to do is I'm going to try and standardize these. So these particular containers here, they're just the standard ones, you know, they're about 1 ounce. I bought some containers from Amazon that are 1 ounce containers that I think will work really well with those. And then I don't know, I think just to keep everything consistent, I might just put these in those 1 ounce containers too, but we'll see how this plays out. If nothing else, I could always purchase 1/2 ounce. We'll see. Okay, so I'm going to show you the containers and then I'll get working organizing this and then show you the end results. Okay, so these are the containers. Like I said, they're 1 inch, they're plastic. I like that they're consistent size from top to bottom, so there's no lip. Versus a lot of these ones here that you get, they have the lips, so they're wider on the top than the bottom and vice versa. So I peeled off the label, trimmed it down, and just add it to the top. I don't know if I'm going to keep that or not, but for now that's going to do the trick. So let me get moving whatever ones I can into these. I purchased 36. Like I said, I may opt to buy some 1/2 ounce ones for those smaller containers. I will let you know what I decide. I just need to share this with you before I go too much farther. So this was not planned, right? I just was going for uniform containers, thinking that it would save me space, you know, make it easier to organize. I already had these trays. These are also on Amazon Find. It came with a pack of like all these different size trays. If I can find the link, I will include it below. But look at you guys, they fit like absolutely perfect. So I still haven't decided if I am going to go with smaller containers for the little ones. What I'm going to do right now is, because I only bought 36 of these, is I'm going to go through and do all the ones in the larger containers. And I have some glitter that I also want to repot. So I'm going to do that until I run out of the big ones, and then I'll make a decision. Okay, it's been a few days since I worked on this project because I ran out of containers to repot everything in. And I just wanted to say before I go any further, I probably should have put this disclaimer at the front or at the start of this video. You guys, this is extra, right? Like, I'm doing this because it drives me crazy, but really there was nothing wrong with the containers. These were already in. It's just my own, you know, idiosyncrasy, wanting to have everything aligned. Okay, so don't feel that you have to do this. You may think this is completely ridiculous. And you know what? You're probably right. It is. Okay, but that being said, I'm still going to show you what I did. So this was the embossing powder drawer, and then I moved on into the glitter. And this is what the glitter drawer is currently looking at. Now these ones here, I'm not going to repot these because these are all the same size already, and they fully maximize the length, but I will be repotting these. I will talk a little bit more about what I did to store these because they are in a tray that I made versus just these dividers. But we'll talk about that after I reconfigure everything. So I showed you these pots that I was transferring embossing powder into. I also bought these smaller size. These are 1/2 ounce, I think, or 15 mil. They're about the same height. They're just, of course, a smaller footprint. And I'm pretty sure that these Wow embossing powders are going to fit in here. And then I will probably also add these ones to those as well. I'm still out on these little ones. It hardly seems worthwhile, but I have had a mishap with them, so I don't know. We'll see where we end up at the end. Those will be the last ones that I will deal with. So yeah, the Wow ones fit perfectly in these smaller sizes. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm hoping to just have the 2 different pot sizes. Okay, so I had indicated that I would show you the trays that I had made. These ones here are Pearl-Ex and Stampin' Up! Fine colored glitter. And as you can see, they are in a foam core tray that I created specifically to fit within the Alex drawer unit. As you may have learned from me by now, I like putting things in trays so that I can pull them out, put them pull them to my desk, use them, and then put them back in quite easily. With the Alex drawer units, the doors don't pull out all the way, so I find it even more important to use trays or bins, because in order to access the back part of the drawer, you really need to be able to pull it out. The nice thing about going lengthwise into the drawer is that I can pull this whole drawer or this whole tray out without having to shift everything around, versus if I went horizontally, I would have to possibly move things out of the way in order to access it. So for the foam core, all I did was figured out my measurements, scored it along the folds, cut at the corners, and then folded it up. And then I took some silicone glue, like Fabri-Tac, and just ran it along the seam to bind it together. I also did that along the corners. And then while that was setting up, I wound some string all the way around to just kind of hold it and clamp it in place. And I think it looks all right, so I just left it in there, even though this is now well and truly bonded. You can see, I'm not going to press terribly hard on it, but you can see that it is pretty sturdy. That silicone definitely does hold up. You could try and use a glue gun, and I did use a little bit to kind of spot hold it. The problem with a glue gun though is it applies heat, and this is just foam core, and so when you apply heat on it, it does melt. So you want to be very careful with how you use a glue gun. Okay, so this tray was already pre-configured. I'm going to use it for the smaller glitter bits. It's not perfect in that there is a little bit of give on the sides. It's not super tight, but I'm okay with that because it just makes it easier to pull out. And I'm just going to lay them on their side so that I can see the colors. That way I know what it is I am pulling, which to me is more important than the actual name. When I did transfer these into the new pots, if they had a label that I could peel off and apply, I did. That's just more for my own interest than I necessarily need to have that in place. So I've got room for a couple more, but that is basically it. And that's going to slide into the drawer. Now, I did transfer all of the glitter, I think now, to these other pots, and I am using some acrylic bins that I bought off of Amazon. So let me show you what the two drawers look like now that I've finished shifting everything around and repackaging. Okay, here's the glitter drawer. I have the Pearlex, some fine glitter, more fine glitter, and then we move into the chunkier glitter. Now these are the acrylic bins I was telling you about. There are two sides. Now in this case I do have to pull this out to access the back, but it is pretty easy to do. So actually let me pull out one of these so you can see that it is pretty easy. There's still a little bit of give, so it's easy enough to pull that one out and slide this one forward and out if needed. It just worked out that these two lengths fit perfectly in the Alex drawers, so I figured why not. You'll notice I have some chalk ink here. That is because I'm still trying to find a new home for the extra ink. Now, I posted a video talking about my ink storage, and as I'm shifting everything around, I'm hoping to find a perfect spot for that. And for right now, that works, so we're gonna live with it. Now let me show you the embossing powder drawer. Okay, this is the drawer of embossing powders. I do have these bigger bins here, and I do that because these are my more commonly used, or they were larger packages of embossing powder. I just find it's easier to use if I can just pour directly over the container. And that's another reason why this also it was a good idea for me, is a lot of those smaller containers, the opening was so small that it was a pain to put embossing powder back in when I was finished, and both of these are a much wider opening, which is great. So these trays go this way. Again, I can pull out the entire tray relatively easily, and I'm really happy with how this has turned out. I had one tray or one bin back there, it didn't fit with this configuration, and that's okay because this is more like a flour soft type of material than embossing powder, which this is also, so it just kind of makes sense. So I'm super pleased with how these turned out. I will leave a link to the jars in the description below. But do please realize, of course, you guys, that this is just because I like the way this looks and functions. It is by all means not necessary. I just think it looks pretty, is easier to access, and will work better for me in the long run, which is why I'm investing in it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I do appreciate you sticking around till the end. And until next time, happy organizing.